Welcome to Sense of Style. I'm Stuart. Someone in the comments last week asked me, why do you hate vanilla? It's not that I hate vanilla, although I do think vanilla lends itself more to a younger demographic than I'm in. But I also think that vanilla can make it really easy for perfumers. It can really let them off the hook. And if you look at the top fragrance houses, at least among designers, in the last 10 years, Chanel, Dior, YSL, and Hermes, of their signature men's line, they've never used vanilla. You have to go all the way back to 2014, where Chanel used it with Edition Blanche EDP and Fahrenheit Le Parfum. But since then, since vanilla got really, really popular and really trendy, none of those houses have used it because they have the resources. If you have creative people and really good resources, you don't need to rely on it. Vanilla can be a little bit of a crutch, so there's no vanilla today. Fragrance number 1 is Le Sel d'Issey from Issey Miyake, and you can't get further away from vanilla than you can with salt. However, salt has no smell at all. None at all. So the salt accord that you're getting here, and every other salt accord around, they're to do with marine notes. It's a marine accord more than anything because people associate salt with the ocean. They come out of the water, the water dries, they got salt everywhere, and then they associate that with the smell of the ocean. So this salt accord is really a marine accord. But there are two other notes here that really are associated with the ocean. You've got oak moss. I first figured that out with Goldfield and Banks Pacific Rock moss. There's a lot of moss and lichens in the ocean, and then you're also going to get seaweed. So those three notes give this a very, and I've never said this before, it's an aggressive, fresh, oceanic smell. Like, it really is aggressive. It pushes out. This is not a passive fragrance. You have to try it to understand what I'm talking about, but this thing is very, very fresh. Now, you might be asking yourself, why salt? Why did Issey Miyake come up with a salt all of a sudden? Issey Miyake is a Japanese brand, and if you know anything about Japan, for instance, sumo wrestling, you see that those guys throwing salt around all the time before they have to go in the ring, right? It's a purification ritual. It's attached to the Shinto religion that they have. So there's something sacred about salt in Japan. So it's not surprising that salt would be the fragrance of choice to mark the 30-year anniversary after L'Eau d'Issey pour Homme. That's what Issey Miyake wanted. Unfortunately, he passed away before this came out. But boy, oh boy, is this a really good, fresh fragrance. Fragrance number 2 is a perfect example of great perfumery versus just putting vanilla on everything. The fragrance in question is Chanel Allure Homme Sport Eau Extreme, and this is the great perfumery. This is a Jacques Paul's creation, and it's a beautiful mix of a nice, subtle, sweet tonka bean with a fresh mandarin note with a little bit of citrus and an icy, minty note. The three are balanced beautifully. This is one of the very few sweet fragrances that people will buy in Southeast Asia because it is extremely hot there, and normally they can't handle something with sweetness, but they do like this. So this came out in 2011. And in 2012, Versace came out with Eros. And if you look at the architecture of the two fragrances, it's exactly alike. So this has mint. This has more mint. This has tonka. This has vanilla. And this has the mandarin note. And basically they create something very similar by combining apple and lemon. They took the construction of Allure Homme Sport Eau Extreme and just ramped everything up. That's not as hard to do as creating an absolute masterpiece in the first place. And so that's what I'm talking about when I say, it's a little bit, I don't know, I'm not going to say cop out exactly, but it's a lot easier to do. The problem with all this argument is this is one of the most popular fragrances on earth. I mean, people absolutely love it. It's considered a top amazing clubbing scent. But again, the creation was much harder to make this than this. And I think this one deserved more credit. I think that, they're not going to be wearing this one in Southeast Asia. Fragrance number 3 is Prada Luna Rossa Carbon. And this is another example of one house copying another. In this case, though, I'm advocating in favor of the thief rather than the original, because Sauvage took the world by storm, and what Prada did was took the Sauvage DNA, the bergamot, black pepper, and ambroxan, and made it a lot smoother with this fragrance. They made it a lot more mature. So Prada started with the lavender. It's a core component in the Luna Rossa line, and it's a very smooth lavender. There's tons of it in here. They also added metallic notes, soil notes, and a coal note to give it some minerality. All those work together to make it a very smooth, easy wear. And the funny thing about this, though, is every time I read fragrances, like all the houses, all they talk about is natural ingredients. It's as natural as possible. You know what's weird? Daniela Andre, she didn't care. Like, this thing is full of aroma chemicals. It's packed. The metallic notes, the ambroxan, the soil note, and the coal note. That's all aroma chemicals. I guess they just decided to forget that for this one because it's been quite successful. It's easily the biggest selling Luna Rossa fragrance, but they didn't go for natural here, that's for sure. Not surprisingly, Montblanc Explorer had 3 perfumers, as did Prada Paradigm. Not so happy about that. But this one makes a lot more sense because they really knew what they were going to do. They just wanted to make it as mass appealing as possible. The weird thing about this one, though, is, yeah, I mean, it's been Montblanc's biggest seller by far, but I've tried at least a dozen Aventus clones. And this one is the least like Aventus. I mean, a lot of people have been able to compare this to Club de Nuit Intense Man, and you guys all know it's quite different. And that's basically because it is. After about 45 minutes especially, it turns into something that's almost a woody citrus and much less like an Aventus clone. So it starts out with a lot of bergamot and the ambroxan giving it a little bit of sweetness, making it smell kind of like a pineapple. But that ambroxan dies down and then it turns into more bergamot, less punchy fruity. And then the woods here, you're getting vetiver and akagali wood. There's no smoky birch here, so you get a very different dry down than you do with Club de Nuit Intense Man and Aventus. And I think I feel more authentic wearing it, quite honestly, because it's not 100% anyway, a clone. The problem with this guy, I think, basically boils down to the longevity. I get 8 hours with Club de Nuit Intense Man. I get about 4 or 5 with this, as do an awful lot of people. I still think it's a higher quality fragrance, though, and it is very pleasant, if not a full-on Aventus clone. Fragrance number 5 is Lacoste L.12 Blanc, or White. My bottle here is a slightly different fragrance. It's a little bit muskier, but essentially it's the same thing. Lacoste White is a woody citrus fragrance with a floral mid. You're going to get a really nice grapefruit note on top. You're going to get cedar, vetiver, and leather in the base. But really, what really makes this different is the floral mid. It's ylang ylang and tuberose. So it's a little bit of creaminess. And you know, sometimes something small can make a huge difference. This came out in 2011 along with Lacoste Blue and Lacoste Green. And Lacoste Blue and Lacoste Green, I mean, they're not that different to this, but they were different enough that people didn't buy them. But they bought this like hotcakes. At one point, they were thinking of discontinuing the entire line, but this thing just kept selling and selling. It kept the line in place. This was like one of 3 fragrances originally released. They now have 30 in total, so pretty much saved the entire line. And yeah, I mean, it is a really good fragrance. It's a really versatile fragrance. It's very clean. I do tend to like creamier fragrances more. I like, you know, the simplicity minimalist fragrance. It's got a minimalist look to it other than this logo that I don't like. But yeah, I mean, it works. And yeah, there's no vanilla. Fragrance number 5 is one of the most underrated fragrances that I've ever tried. It's in my top 5 underrated for sure. It's SJP Stash from Sarah Jessica Parker. It might seem like a strange choice, but this is really good. And Sarah Jessica Parker knew it. So her entire brand has 25 fragrances. All of them are for women. This is the only one that's unisex. It's actually really not unisex. It's really for men. But most of the people that buy her fragrances because of Sex and the City, most of those people are women. But she knew that this was really good and she wanted to get it and she fought for it and we've got it. And if you like woody fragrances, man, you got to seriously consider this because it's very, very different. It is a creamy woody scent with a completely different texture than anyone's used to in a woody fragrance. And no, it doesn't come from like florals in the mid like Lacoste White. This has Masoya wood, which is a milky wood, and you mix the Masoya wood with the cedar and the vetiver, and you get a creamy woody feel, which is completely original, and it's really cool. You're also going to get a little bit of sparkle, which I do think is needed with all the woods. You're going to get a sparkle from the black pepper and the olibanum. Very solid performance. I get 6 hours, not bad for a woody fragrance. Typical woody projection, which is a couple of feet. Presentation is really nice. Really nice bottle. You can get it for under $40. Yeah, totally underrated fragrance if you can just put the fact that it's from Sarah Jessica Parker out of your head and give it a try, especially if you like woody fragrances. It's great. Fragrance number 7 is Celestial by Paris Corner, and this is a clone of Marc-Antoine Barrois' Ganymede. Now, Ganymede and this, the scent themselves, really not what I'm into. I'm not a huge fan of this, but a lot of people are, and this is an excellent, excellent clone. I finally got a chance to try Ganymede, and the similarities are unbelievable. Very similar fragrance. But yeah, it's, you know, you're not going to like everything, and that is really not my style because it's very clean and minimalist, but even for me, too clean and minimalist. So you're going to get saffron, violet leaf, and mineral notes. You're also going to get suede and some akagali wood. So it's all very clean and very clear. There's not a whole lot there. You do get a little hint of osmanthus, which is like a fruity note. But other than that, there's no warmth here. I like warm fragrances. Orientals are my style. This is like the anti-oriental. And so, yeah, it's a very different experience. But yeah, I get 8 hours with this. Not as much as the original Ganymede, but still really good. Presentation here is great. Projection for a fresh fragrance is really good too. So yeah, no problems with the clone, no problems with Ganymede as a fragrance, just not my cup of tea. Fragrance number 8, CK All by Calvin Klein. And I've tried a ton of these summer CK fragrances from Calvin Klein, and I don't like any of them, except for this one. I really do like it. I didn't even like CK1. I mean, I don't hate them, but they're just not my cup of tea. This one is a white floral one, though, so I really do like it. The performance isn't great, but I like the creaminess of the white floral. You're going to get mandarin and bergamot off the top. You're going to get 4, and 3 of the 4 floral notes are a little bit different. Grapefruit blossom, you don't hear that every day. You're going to get freesia, you're going to get lily, and then you're also going to get jasmine, which is pretty typical. But yeah, it adds a little bit of creaminess. Again, as I said, not the greatest performance in the world, but you're wearing it on a summer day, so you don't need quite as much. But yeah, no vanilla, not surprisingly. And yeah, look, I don't hate vanilla at all. I'm a little bored with it at the moment, to be honest with you. There's so many fragrances that had a ton of it. And there are a couple of houses that are particularly bad for abusing vanilla. I'm looking at you, Emporio Armani and Jean Paul Gaultier, but still like those houses, but I like creativity more. Anyway, thanks for watching.